Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. One more time. We're going to do this third time's a charm on a wonderful Thursday. Welcome back into the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. We've had the pleasure of talking to Gene Henley of the Chattanooga Times Free Press today. We've talked to Kenzie Bradenberg of Cowbell Corner today. And now we're going to be talking to Joey Van Zemmeren of MizzouCentral.com. So we're going to round it out with another SEC perspective. Joey Van Zemmeren, you can follow him at JoeyVZ_ on the Twitter machine, on the X machine. Joey, how's your Thursday going, sir?
It's going great. I appreciate you having me on, Joe. And Mizzou is making an exciting season to talk about, so I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. It is an exciting season. Are you standing on business today? And what I want to know, Joey, is do you think that Eli Drinkwitz knew what that phrase meant before the week started last week?
Definitely not. Although I will say Drinkwitz has surprised me a little bit in his knowledge of slang terms. I think some of his players have educated him a bit on that. I mean, earlier in the season, he said something like that his offensive coordinator, Kirby Moore, was in his bag. So I was proud of him for pulling that one out, but I don't think he understood what standing on business or business, as he said, meant before last week.
Oh, for the unknowing, or the people who haven't paid attention to Missouri football over the last couple of years, obviously it's a great year so far, top 10. But why? What's the controversy? I follow it so far, but for the people who don't know, what's the controversy between Missouri and Tennessee? Why would he go up and shake his hand in that fashion?
Sure. So there has been quite a bit of bitterness in this matchup over the past few years. Mizzou lost, I believe, the last four matchups going into that game last weekend. And in the past two matchups in 2022 and then in 2021, Tennessee, I believe, scored 60 and Mizzou somewhere around 20 in both those games. And especially, so, in last year's game, Tennessee, they were winning 59-7, something like that, 59 and 20, somewhere around that range. There was 40 seconds left in the game, and Josh Heupel comes in and calls a timeout so that they can run in another touchdown to get to 66. So then this year comes, and Missouri is a completely different team, and Eli Drinkwitz takes advantage of the opportunity, and when Mizzou is leading 36-7, Tennessee, for some reason, wants to attempt a field goal with 40 seconds left. So Drinkwitz comes over and makes sure to take a timeout, and ices the kicker. And it worked. The Tennessee kicker missed the field goal. So I was honestly surprised. You could tell how personal this game was for Mizzou, its players, and Coach Drinkwitz. Usually Drinkwitz is I would say he's humble, but that's not even the right word. But usually he's not the type of guy to, or at least this year, to take that opportunity to take that timeout. But, he talked about after the game how personal this game was, and they were obviously felt very disrespected from Tennessee's timeout last year to get to 66. So I'm sure that was a very sweet moment for Drinkwitz there.
Absolutely. It's been a season full of sweet moments, and we're proud over at BamaCentral to be partnered with MizzouCentral. So, Joey, tell us about MizzouCentral. Tell us about yourself. What are you doing up there in Columbia, Missouri?
Sure. So Christopher Walsh, who runs BamaCentral, he just got on board with MizzouCentral. I believe they started back up around mid-October because people realized, hey, Mizzou is doing very good, and it would be good to have some more coverage on them. It's been great these past few weeks. I've been covering football and men's basketball and women's basketball, so it's been a busy crossover season, but it's been a lot of fun too, and we're putting out a lot of great content. We have a great staff of students here at Mizzou's prestigious journalism school, so it's been a great opportunity to work with them.
Well, you can follow Joey Van Zemmeren at JoeyVZ_ on the Twitter machine, on the X machine. Make sure you're following all of his great work at MizzouCentral.com. Okay, what's your favorite moment from Missouri's great year so far? I mean, obviously, You go down to Athens and lose, and that stinks. You lose at home to LSU, that kind of stinks. But you've got great wins. You go over and beat the brakes off of Kentucky. You obviously you beat Vanderbilt, okay, no big deal. You embarrassed South Carolina, pretty good. No, Missouri's had a pretty fun year. Had pretty good year to brag about. In the top 10 season so far. Playing Florida this weekend. What's been some of your favorite moments of the year so far?
Man, the two that jump to mind are two plays on special teams. First off, Harrison Mevis's was it 63-yard kick against Kansas State to win that game. That the game will stick with me for a long time, just because, seeing how the season has played out, it's not as much as an upset for Mizzou to beat Kansas State. But then early on in the season, it really seemed like a David versus Goliath match. Kansas State was ranked as 15th. Mizzou, they were 2-0, but their 2 wins came against South Dakota State and then Middle Tennessee State. And the win against Middle Tennessee State, it was 23-19, and it was a pretty ugly win. And from the press conference afterwards, I mean, you go back and listen to that, you would have thought it was a loss for Mizzou. It was not a good performance. So having that game against Kansas State, where really it wasn't even like Kansas State was, I guess, playing down to their competition, or at least that's what people might have viewed it as at the time. But like Mizzou was just in that fight for the whole time. They were able to go punch for Kansas State. And then obviously that thrilling Harrison Mevis kick, fans rushing the field, that was amazing. And then the other play being Luke Bowers' fake putt touchdown in Kentucky. I was there for that game. Awesome to go to Kentucky Stadium there. And really, I feel like that play kind of, I wouldn't say a turning point because things were going well before then, but I also just think that, at that point, it was early or late in the second half, and Mizzou was trailing 14-0, and they were about to punt it to Kentucky and possibly could have gone down 3 possessions. So that touchdown from Bauer was, I think, very important in having Mizzou go on to win that game. I think they ended up outscoring them something like 30-7 after that fake punt. So definitely those 2 special teams plays are very memorable for me.
All right, so one of the early games in the season, Eli Drinkwitz comes into the post-game press conference and says, "I can't believe the students in the crowd were booing the starting quarterback, booing Brady Cook. He's the starting quarterback." Joey, that wasn't you. You weren't booing Brady Cook, were you? And building off that in a more serious fashion, what's been the key to the success for the Missouri Tigers this year?
Sure. So first with Cook, I think it all starts with him. I think he is definitely, along with Cody Schrader, a main storyline for this season. He definitely embodies the motto that Mizzou has claimed this year of something to prove. Not only because of, that situation was before the Kansas State game, which adds a lot to it. I mean, it became easy to forget with how well Brady Cook was playing that. No, that was not me. I was in the press box watching that. But it was easy to forget that, he split time with Sam Horn in that first game. You can say what you want about what Drinkwitz's ideas. He probably favored Cook the whole offseason. But, he was in a quarterback competition with Sam Horn this offseason, a 4-star sophomore out of Georgia. And then in that Kansas State game, gets booed by the student section before the game, didn't have too great a performance against Middle Tennessee State. And then he just goes out there and absolutely lights it up against Kansas State. He gets injured before the second half on a run. And then he comes out back again in the second half and continues to play an amazing game. So, he has definitely been, I don't want to label anybody as the most valuable player because there's a lot of them on Mizzou, and I don't think there's one player that you can attribute it to. But I think, there was a lot of Mizzou fans and, even people outside of Mizzou who expected this team to again go, at or around 500 on this season. And I think the biggest difference for why they have lived above expectations is the fact that Brady Cook has been not only a reliable starting quarterback, and the fact that you aren't as worried that he's going to turn the ball over as you were last year. But also just the fact of he's been more than reliable. He has been good. He has stepped up in the big moments that the team kind of folded in last year. The team had a lot of one-score losses last year. So he has been a big difference for this team. And just some other things that have been going well and how Mizzou has been able to turn this over. I think it's all on the offense. Kirby Moore, like I mentioned earlier, the first offense coordinator that Drinkwitz has ever employed. And he has been doing an amazing job. Obviously, the brother of Kellen Moore. And I think especially this last weekend against Tennessee really showed what Kirby Moore brings to this team, because they had to find a different formula to win. Luther Burden, their star wide receiver, he was playing, but he was dealing with an ankle injury. So they were pretty much mainly using him as a decoy. He had that great touchdown at the end of the game, but they had to get creative, and they were going up against a really good rushing defense in Tennessee, and Cody Schrader absolutely, I think, obliterated is a fair word for his 300-yard total performance. So they just used a lot of motion, got really creative in order to beat Tennessee. The offensive line has really stepped up compared to last year. They were just yesterday nominated for the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line in the country. And last year, that was another thing that one did not help Brady Cook's play. And then also, the offense as a whole. And this year, they've really stepped up. They've made it easy for Cody Schrader, who has praised them quite a bit. You look at the offensive line, and I think it makes sense that they've been able to gel together. They have some older guys on there like Javon Foster, Xavier Delgado. They brought in Cameron Johnson, a transfer from Eastern Michigan. And then also their center, Connor Tollison, who struggled last year. He was a freshman starting. So, it makes sense that he had some struggles a little bit. So they've really gelled together. So the offense has been the main talking point, and then the defense had a really great season last year. It took them a little bit this season to kind of return to that form, but over these past few weeks, I think starting with that second half of the Kentucky game that we mentioned earlier, they have really turned it around.
All right, 8-2 on the season so far. Missouri Tigers hosting the Florida Gators this weekend, 11.5-point underdog. Real quick, get us out of here, Joey Van Zemmeren. What's going to be the breakdown of this weekend's game against the Florida Gators?
Sure. I think this is a really favorable matchup for Mizzou. You look at a Florida defense that has been struggling with containing the explosive plays, and that has been what Mizzou has thrived on, at least in games where Cody Schrader, doesn't have 300 yards. Mizzou has gotten plenty of explosive plays with Luther Burden and also a very fast freshman wide receiver, Marquise Johnson. So I think that's a great sign for Mizzou. And then also Florida as a whole defensively has been struggling. You look at their defensive line that has kind of been pushed around by other offensive lines, even like you look at Arkansas just 2 weeks ago. So I think, this Mizzou offense likes to utilize a lot of wide zone blocking. So I think they're going to have their way with this Florida defensive line and open up plenty of holes for Cody Schrader. And I just, as far as Florida's offense, I like what Graham Mertz is doing. I have a lot of friends in Wisconsin who are Badgers fans who I heard the book on Graham Mertz was very good in his first few games as a Badger, and then kind of tapered off after that. But he's been impressive in Florida this season, but I don't know if they're going to have the offense to match up with Mizzou's that it could have a great day against Florida's defense.
Well, Florida plays like dog poo outside of the swamp, so I feel like it's going to be another big old win for the Missouri Tigers, getting into contention for New Year's Six bowl game. Looks like they're probably going to be out on the playoff poll, but New Year's Six, hell yeah, great job, Eli Drinkwitz.
Yes.
They'll keep building off that. Joey Van Zemmeren, follow him at JoeyVZ_ on the Twitter machine, and make sure you guys are following everything they're doing at MizzouCentral.com. Joey, we'll keep up with you and your team over here at BamaCentral.com. I appreciate your time, man. Hope you have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on, Joe.
Yes, sir. That's Joey Van Zemmeren talking to us from MizzouCentral.com. We talked to Kenzie Bradenberg from CowbellCorner.com. We talked to Gene Henley of the Chattanooga Times Free Press. It was an action-packed day. It was an action-packed episode. You now know a good bit about the UTC Mocs. You know what's going down on Saturday with their passing game. And really, UTC close, but not quite good enough in the FCS level. Hopefully, we'll see, root for our opponents on Sunday to get into the FCS playoffs. They're at that point, it's no harm for Alabama. We'll continue to follow our friends at Mississippi State at Cowbell Corner to figure out what in the world they're going to do with their coaching situation. I think, honestly, they made the right move in firing Zach Arnett. So follow Kenzie Bradenberg at Kensington Brand 2 on the X Machine, and follow her at Cowbell Corner. And follow my man Joey Van Zemmeren over at JoeyVZ_ on the X Machine at MizzouCentral, as Missouri having kind of a Cinderella season. We didn't talk any basketball, but I expect that will be on our slate next time we catch up with MizzouCentral.com as we're getting warmed up into college basketball season. So that's going to do it for our Thursday episode. You followed us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on Amazon. You watched us live, maybe on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can watch us, all our episodes, at BamaCentral's YouTube channel.com, BamaCentral on the YouTube channel. And then, of course, follow us at BamaCentral.com with a Sports Illustrated home for your Alabama Crimson Tide. Our other Bama Central Broadcasting Network podcast is Blue Collar Unplugged with Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and Jacob Pickle. Alabama basketball going to be back in action on Friday night against Mercer. We'll be in Coleman Coliseum covering all the action, and then turning around on Friday doing a little bit of Alabama Senior Day against UTC. So follow us tomorrow. We'll be back at noon, live at noon for Football Friday. It'll be myself, and we'll see whoever else we can find. It'll probably be Katie Wyndham and Austin Hannon tomorrow at noon for Football Friday. That's going to do it for our episode today. Hope you had a great day. Enjoy your Thursday. We'll be back for another episode of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.